My name's Melanie and I work for an organisation called the Commission for Financial Capability. And I was at Ministry of Health yesterday and one of our colleagues said, it's like your organisation's been given a shot in the arm recently because we have just reviewed the retirement income policies, which is the awkward moving between 65 up for KiwiSaver, those sorts of things. So that's us. But I'm not here to talk about that. I've been asked to talk about building, housing and financial wellbeing. I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet because consumer rights, financial capability and building and housing are three really big things that are a bit of a tricky task to combine. Anyway, we work really closely with the MBIE Consumer Protection crew because we view consumer rights and financial capability as one and the same. The same skill set that you need to know about consumer rights is the same skill set that you need to have thinking about financial capability. Obviously in the building and housing space, knowing your rights before you go into things with a huge financial risk is important, but also before you go into any of those choices and decisions, you need to be set up in the best way possible. So that's where we sort of have our part to play. Right, so you might have noticed recently that we've lost our wee mouse on our sorted website. And the tagline, the marketing line, I'm not in the marketing team, but the marketing line is that he's gone to a retirement village. I'm in community and I don't necessarily buy into the tagline. What we did have is a whole bunch of people across our system saying we didn't really like being told what to do by a mouse, by a rodent, and being finger-wagged at by a rodent. Particularly our Māori and Pacific whānau that we work with, it just didn't seem to fit well with their view of the world. So because we try and focus from people from all walks of life, right at the most vulnerable to right at the very far end, we do have to make these things a bit more user-friendly. So that's what we've done with Sorted. The marketing tagline is putting you in Sorted, which is essentially trying to make the tools a bit more user-friendly as opposed to being done to. So all of the calculators and things have been reconfigured so that you have the answers yourself. One point I wanted to make while we're talking about Sorted is that the calculators are now available. If you want any of the Sorted calculators on any of your websites that you might have use of or ownership of, you're more than welcome to use them. If you wanted to put the Sorted calculators on your websites, you're more than welcome to, and again, I've got instruction sheets on how to do that. They are incredibly useful because they're probably the only impartial thing you can get. Lots of people default to their bank calculators and those sorts of things, but obviously if it's a bank calculator, it's never going to be as impartial as Sorted. So the other plus about Sorted, aside from the calculators, is that now we've got a whole bunch of content which are like content pages, 150, 200 words on all sorts of things that we didn't have before. Things like how much can I borrow, knowing your credit before you go into saving for a mortgage, those sorts of things. Questions to ask a lender, and that's only on the home buying section. We've got all sorts of things, knowing your rights, who to talk to if you've got a problem with consumer issues and those sorts of things. This is one of our calculators. This is the mortgage calculator. If you were talking with one of your clients, and this is an interesting thing from a consumer rights point of view, before they go into purchasing a mortgage off a lender, saying, so if you can only afford the rate as it is right now, we know that it is only going to go, the interest rate, we know that it's going to go up. So if you can afford this top number now, and that's at a really, really big stretch, why not go onto the mortgage calculator on Sorted and just add a different percentage? So this is just 2% increase to 7%, which is really quite likely, right? And you can see the change. And that's just one of the examples. So you can see throughout the weekly repayments, the 30 years, but also you can see the interest. So I suppose that's what the financial capability part of consumer awareness is just being aware that every little financial choice that you make now has broader consumer impact in the long term. So That's just one. We have all sorts of calculators like this. Like I said, we work really closely with the MBIE consumer protection people, but we also work really closely with all sorts of other government partners around financial capability. When we spoke to Building and Housing New Zealand and said that we were presenting, they said, well, if you've got an opportunity to waive our pamphlets around buying your first home with KiwiSaver, or your first home, or buying your first home made easy, particularly with the communities that you might be working for, these pamphlets, again, they're really quite easy to read. They're really easily understood by all sorts of people, and they're printable. You can also make them pay. And ask your local Housing New Zealand office to provide you with some of those pamphlets. But as you can see, consumer rights and being aware of your choices are so interlinked throughout the building and housing process, but also a variety of other ones. Buying your first home, the hidden costs of buying a home. You might think, sweet, I can save up, purchase a house, and this is it. But what about moving? What about rates? What about this? What about that? What about this? So going into any of these purchases, knowing and being aware of financial capability implications are important. So anyway, like I said, the sorted calculators can be embedded on your website. We also have a new community forum, which is like a Trade Me forum page, similar to that, like a chat room. People from the public ask a question. Again, we have people moderating it, so there's nobody promoting or upselling their, we're a financial advisor, come talk to us if you've got a question. There's none of that. It's really peer-to-peer conversation about consumer rights, financial capability, budgeting, debt, all of those things. But we also have a section called Investing in Real Estate. So if you've got anybody in your networks or your community that feel like potentially they could talk online about those things, or have lived experience or anything that they want to share, if you've got someone who's gone through the ranks and they're popped out the other side and they're doing a fantastic job, encourage them to share their story. Cool, and we also have our sorted booklets, again, no mouse, but we also have them now in English and Te Reo, which is really useful, and our free seminars are also on the website.